So you found me today. I'm in Saxby Hall, North Carolina, and I actually just stepped out of one of our favorite venues in the world, the Hall River Ballroom, where we are setting up for the next 3 days to shoot what will be a concert documentary.
Oh, that sounds exciting. Tell me about it.
Well, it's going to be our kind of virtual album release party. In a normal album year, we'd be about a month into a 5-month international release tour.
Yeah.
But this being 2020, we've all been stuck at home for the last 6 months, other than 1 2-week period where we made some music videos. And a week ago, however, ahead of the album release, we met up to rehearse and kind of learn the record for the first time since the studio sessions and
It's
get
always a good
ready
move.
to, yeah, for sure. And a humbling one too. And we got together to do that. And then we're shooting this, what will be a two-part series released later this month and next month. And also get ready to kind of do a virtual press tour, which will occupy most of the next week.
Sounds like fun. So are you enjoying the new process?
Yeah, I mean, I love playing the new music, and
Yeah.
honestly, I just love getting to play music again. I haven't played music with anybody else since March, which is
Oh,
the
man.
first time in my adult life. So to have
Mm.
gone that long, so that part's great. Obviously we miss playing shows, and we miss, or we're feeling the absence of the strategy we had in mind for this release.
Right.
And the tour and everything behind it. But there's something to be learned from having to do it in a different way and from having to slow down and have some restrictions. I think some of the lessons that we'll take away and keep in mind next time around when things are hopefully normal again.
Yeah. Now, what I found interesting when I read through all the press and stuff was that the band considered actually breaking up after the release of the previous record. So I'm curious about what happened with that idea and why are you guys still here and how is it different now?
Yeah, good question. Well, a band like ours, which is a 4-piece full democracy with multiple songwriters and kind of multiple leads,
Yeah.
it's a lot like being in a marriage, but with a lot less physical release. And so we found just that there were some parts of our 8-year relationship at that point that, because of the grind and the pace we've been keeping of, those first 7 years, we averaged about 160, 170 shows a year.
Right.
And I think that we just kind of buried some tension points instead of addressing them. And a lot of those really subtly rose to the surface during that recording session, which was in January in Eugene, Oregon, the month that Trump was inaugurated. So there was a lot of gloom to be felt.
Fair
And
enough.
afterwards, we just kind of all encountered the kind of subtle questions of why isn't this working well and what could be better, even though on the surface we were kind of thriving and reaching a new peak in our career. And after considering from a lot of different angles what it would be like to break up, we remembered that, and maybe just kind of realized in earnest for the first time what a special thing we had built together, and that it was precious to have this set of relationship and experiences with each other. And we wanted to, if possible, prioritize that and to make
Right.
some adjustments to make it better in the future. And that meant going into this album, taking a much more collaborative approach from the onset of the writing. It's always been collaborative in the studio, but generally the songs came from individual writers or from co-writing sessions pretty fully formed. And this time around, we took a lot more time and introduced ideas much more freely and much more early on so that they could be emotionally impacted by everyone.
Uh-huh. So how did that impact you and your songwriting?
Well, I actually love co-writing, both inside the band and with other people. And so for me, it was really fun because I have all these ideas that in previous sessions I might have thrown away as not being right for this time. That in
Right.
this one, I was like, oh, this is perfect. I got this hook for the chorus or the bridge. And I think that Joseph or Libby could really flesh something around that. So it was fun and really liberating to bring early and incomplete ideas to be finished together.
Right. And for folks who are going to hear this album and are familiar with the band already, what are they going to hear that's different?
Each of our albums, I feel like sonically, people say that we take another step kind of further away from our string band roots.
Yeah.
And whereas on the last album or two, that meant the incorporation of percussion and electric instruments and largely pedal steel on the electric guitar. On this one, there's a lot more keys and synths. So that's sonically, that's a part of the landscape for the first time. I think on the songwriting style too, there's maybe some less veiled emotions.
Hmm. And getting back to the sonic side of things, there is some weirdness happening on a few, especially on a few of the tracks. Like I think Caroline has some kind of squeaks and things in it, and the Big Star has some weirdness going in the intro. Is that what you're kind of
Yeah,
referring to? Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, alongside our producer Sandra Perry, both with the kind of the rhythmic foundation and the groove, and then also in the outer edges of the textures that surround what are the core parts, which are still largely our string band instruments.
Right.
We just let ourselves be free and had fun and tracked most of it live. And we would find little things in these amazing studios and just say, like, maybe that turtle shell would be the perfect offbeat to this drum pattern. Let's work on that.
Right.
And it was honestly the first time that we had time to be able to take that type of exploratory pattern in the studio.
So I noticed that you refer to yourself as a string band still. Is that how you guys think of the band?
It's how I think of, it's where we've come from, and so it's definitely
Right.
a part of our DNA still. Is it how I think that we reflexively verbalize ourselves now? Probably less so. But I think it's still an important part of how we think about both song structure and the rhythmic bed, and also maybe especially the harmony singing.
Right. Right. So specifically on the album, what ones are you most involved with as far as writing the song? Which songs?
On this album, Just Want to Be Loved is one I wrote on
Uh-huh.
my own. And then Hourglass is one that's a co-write between me and Libby and Joseph.
Right.
That's a song where the verse, both kind of thematically and the melody and structure of it, as well as the kind of ooh hook in between, were things that I had that I thought could be stitched together. And when I shared them early on, Libby immediately was like, that reminds me of this chorus I wrote a year or two ago. And so that later that afternoon, this was during an early writing session, the two of us kind of squirreled away and found that they stitched together really readily. And once we fleshed out what that looked like, along with the bridge I already had, we brought Joseph in to kind of flesh out a new verse to finish out the song.
Cool. So it sounds pretty collaborative. Is that satisfying
Yeah.
for you?
Oh man, totally. Later that evening, that day, we were set up in a barn where we put up our PA system, and we were recording with full volume, and it was a beautiful North Carolina spring day. And as soon as we had the idea for that structure, Wood, the bass player, and Jan, the drummer, immediately found that groove and the pulse. And it was like one of the quickest start to finish of both the song kind of coming together and also us just finding an immediate fun energy in it. So it was really rewarding.
Now you mentioned Just Want to Be Loved as one of the ones you were involved in. It's kind of got a Sunday morning coming down kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I think that the vibe you mentioned is right on with the pulse of that one. It's about thinking that maybe if you felt, whether romantically, socially, intellectually accepted, you might be able to ignore some of the blemishes on the outer edge of whatever you're working through, and taking a harder look at that and thinking, maybe I need to deal with the blemishes on my own too.
Mm-hmm. And so are all you guys based in North Carolina?
No, we're all from North Carolina, and that's where we met. And
Right.
the first 6 years of our band existence, we were all living within 2 miles of each other here in the Triangle, Central North Carolina. But 4 years ago, I moved to Brooklyn, New York,
That's a big move.
just a big move indeed. And in the last 3 months, Wood, the bass player, moved to Salt Lake City.
I just spoke to somebody else in Salt Lake City the other day. You don't hear about that too
Nice.
much. There you go.
And Marty, where are you based?
Well, I am in Auckland, New Zealand, despite my very American accent.
What part of Auckland do you live in?
What part of Auckland?
Yeah.
I'm right in the middle of the city.
Okay, cool. I lived in Auckland twice, in high school and in college. In high school, I was an exchange student at McLean's College out in Howick, or Eastern Beach, really, and lived in Eastern Beach. And then I came back, when was that? 10 years ago, and lived on Waiheke Island for a year and worked a vintage at Stony Ridge Vineyard.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I have a deep love and connection with New Zealand, and I mean daily, and I'm in contact with my friends and the family I lived with there. So yeah,
cool.
that's kind of my second home.
Yep. No, I used to live out west, Henderson and that area, and then I moved into the mid city about 10 years ago, and it's fantastic here now.
Nice.
And we just got out of lockdown yesterday, or 2 days ago, so we're all very excited to go out and see shows again and do stuff.
I'm sure. Congratulations. I'm looking on with envy.
So what's the vibe like where you are? Are you in Brooklyn now?
No, we're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I came down about 2 weeks ago to my older brother also lives in Brooklyn. He's a comedian and he writes movies. And
cool.
Then my younger brother lives around here. And so we all came into North Carolina and quarantined and got tested. My dad and I have the same birthday. And so it was the first time we'd all seen each other this year. We decided it was worth it to take the time to do it safely. And so yeah, had some family time and then a week of rehearsal and now 2 weeks of band time.
Yep. And
here, COVID's rising again after a summer work quelled. The lack of leadership on the national level has encouraged yet again situations where it's going to be hard to contain as we head into winter months.
Yeah, I don't envy you. I mean, we even had trouble. We thought we had it beat, and then it came back, and we had leadership. But that the little virus sneaks in no matter how you're going to do it. So
for sure.
So how are you feeling about everything? Are you hopeful after the election?
Oh man, I mean, I think that in the last couple of weeks, well, how to frame this shortly, in the midst of what is as tumultuous and depressing a year as I can imagine, both with the pandemic, the lack of leadership on the national level, the kind of incredible vitriol on both sides as people spar over, I think rightfully so, more and more, or events with higher and higher stakes. It's, on the one hand, I'm hopeful because seeing in my communities, seeing how people banded together after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and came in a super diverse coalition together to say we can do better than this and there's other ways, that I find a lot of hope in that, and in the largely peaceful although powerful messaging of it. And yet with the election in mind, like, it's just too easy to remember how confident we felt 3 weeks ahead of 2016. And I think that uniquely, as Southerners largely from small towns, in the immediate aftermath, and I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and most of my community there couldn't believe how it had happened. And like, when you tour around the rural United States, we saw the warning signs that there was potential momentum behind that type of anger and isolation. And if anything, I think that the microscope that has been put on the policies and maybe the history that allows for that type of repression, that has diminished, I think, the size of the people on the outer edges, but the ones at the center feel even more righteous in their spite. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned being in North Carolina. A couple of months ago, I talked to, are you familiar with the guys in the band American Aquarium?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I talked to the main guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head at the moment, but man,
BJ.
He was passionate about it, and he was all fired up, and and that was months ago. I can imagine what the vibe must be like with you guys.
It's a lot. And on the one hand, I was talking with some of my bandmates and a friend the other night, and I'm happy that I'm able to still feel engaged, and like to be out there fighting, to be phone banking and doing what you can to make sure that people are aware of the importance of their vote and how to do it safely. On the other hand, from a mental health perspective, I'm like so exhausted, and it's just constant inundation.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'm eager for what it means for my writing and musicianship to be a month from now, where maybe it'll be a little bit more possible to focus on other stuff.
Yeah. Other stuff being, well, so the album is called MIPSO, right?
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
That's good. So hopefully you'll be doing some shows and the album will get to an audience somehow, somewhere. And who knows, maybe you can come back down to Auckland.
That would be awesome. We've been in years past every spring. I feel like I'm pestering our agents and our managers to get us booked at the Auckland Folk Festival. So hopefully it'll happen for too
that
long.
Would be very cool because you are a string band after all. So that's where you belong.
That's right. We can still play the part. Although luckily it used to be that's kind of the only type of festival we would play, and now we're definitely branching out into some new territory. So I think there might be some new avenues to come down. Both there and Australia, it seems like the Americana scene.
Oh yeah,
we envy it. So it'd be fun to be a part of it.
It's pretty big. It's pretty big, and yeah, the record's sounding good. So hopefully it does everything that it can do at this point. And I'll be on the lookout for your thing that you're going to record, the concert, the virtual. What was it again?
Yeah. We're calling it a virtual show, a virtual album release concert. But yeah, it's a concert. This is a venue we've played maybe like 6 times in our history and have kind of outgrown of late. But it's this beautiful old mill house out in the country in the Triangle in a town called Saxby. 800 cap venue, 3-tiered, and it's right by this big river. And what we wanted to show, it's such a beautiful space. And you know, when we're on tour, we're in these venues for 8 hours. Getting set up and playing the show and talking to people afterwards, and our fans only see us for like 80 or 90 minutes. And so meanwhile, we're playing music in the green room, in the bathroom, in the stairwell. And so we thought, what if we do a show in each of those places? So the set will be followed by a team of videographers as we move throughout the venue and play in kind of all of the unique and beautiful sounding spots.
Well, I'm sure there must be a link somewhere when that is posted somewhere, and we'll find out what it is and put it up on the website.
For sure, it's on our website already.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for talking to me. I appreciate it, and good luck with the record. And hopefully we'll see you down here, but hang in there over where you are.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see you before too long. Thanks for the time, Marty. Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.